everybody, this is Alan with Me, You, and the Chickens. And the question of today is backyard farming, backyard raising chickens something for you? Is it for you? Is it a lifestyle that you can live? We had to actually answer those questions for ourselves too, because there's quite a bit that's involved in either raising your own chickens, growing some of your own food, and that's what we're getting into. This is a tree that we actually transplanted from someone else's garden. We're hoping that it sets its roots and grows here in our garden. So we're at the point where we're now combining our animal raising with a little bit of farming. And so all of that actually involves sweat equity and time. So when you're answering the question of whether or not this is something that's right for you, you want to answer those two questions. Do you have the time, and are you willing to actually put in the work? And some of that sweat equity is actually researching and learning about different plants, animals, learning their behavior, learning their different personalities as far as animals go. Like we raise goats, and each of our goats have a different kind of personality. One of our male goats likes to communicate with his head. The other male goat is standoffish, and we have a wether. So there's ups and downs on the personality scale, and we have to learn about these things in order to take good care of the animals that we have, and also in order to be productive when gardening and growing different plants. So you definitely have to answer those two questions. Do you have the time, and are you willing to put in the work? Because it's some work involved. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Uh, for the last year, we've grown tremendously. Um, if you have, if you don't have the facility or the space already built up, you're going to have to build. There's some building involved. I had to build the chicken coops that house our different chicken breeds, and because we're making sure that we keep the integrity of each chicken breed, we have to have separate housing for each breed that we have. Erecting pens for the goats, because we have the mini Nigerian dwarfs and standard Nigerian dwarfs, we had to erect separate pens and housing and lean-tos for those animals, because you have to provide food, shelter for each of your animals that you're going to have. And we learned that you really, really have to consider those two things, because we also do rescues, animal rescues, and rehoming. And the thing that we run into the most with the rescue is from people that acquire a particular animal, and then once the animal matures, um, they just get done with putting in the time. They don't have the time. They have busy lives. They, their job becomes more demanding. We work from home, so it affords us a little bit more as far as time to come out and check on the animals and tend to the animals. You may not have that kind of time, but we do. So you have to definitely consider that, and that is something that quite a bit of people have run into um, when acquiring different animals. You know, and managing the growth of breed of chickens, or managing collecting eggs. You know, you have to collect the eggs, you have to clean the pens, you have to ensure that they're being fed every day. So it's quite a bit, particularly with animals. Some gardening you don't have to um, put that much work into. And so that even with gardening, we had to consider the time and the effort that would be needed in order to actually get things going and maintaining what we have. That's where the time table comes in. Maintaining uh, what you actually get going, or what you establish as far as your farm is concerned, or your backyard garden, or your homestead, whatever word you want to use. So now, when we had someone that came here to take a look at our farm, and we had already started a small garden area, but it was falling to the wayside because we weren't actually giving it the time needed. And he actually gave us a resolution to that, and that was permaculture. And that's where you are putting things in place to actually require less time involvement in the maintaining of a particular thing, where there's a relationship between the different species of plants or vegetables that you put into your garden. So we're having to learn a little bit more about permaculture and how we're going to um, maintain, you know, the soil, the health of the soil, how we're going to enrich the soil on our property. So there's quite a bit that you have to put into backyard farming. That's just the thing. So you need to answer those two questions for yourself. You don't want to get yourself in a position where you have to uh, rehome your animals, because a lot of people, they get a particular animal and they build a bond with it. It becomes a pet, and then you have to get rid of that particular pet because it becomes too demanding for your lifestyle. So do you have the luxury of time, or the luxury to dedicate an amount of time to your farm? Because trust me, um, sometimes chickens can become demanding. It's depending on how many you have. We have quite a bit of chickens. We have several breeds, several chicken coops. So, we have to make our rounds. We have to pick up the eggs. We also do rescues. So we have several breeds of ducks that we have on our property. So those are the things that you have to consider when considering time. It's not, a dog, a cat, they're going to take less maintenance than these other animals. I thought dogs and cats were demanding. Not at all. Uh, once you train a dog or a cat and you house train those animals, they become pretty easy to maintain. But with chickens, goats, you know, you're gonna have a little bit more involved because they're outside. They're outside animals, and you know, different feeding methods that you have to employ. So you really want to consider those things. And that's just I just wanted to put that out there. So for all the backyard farm enthusiasts, you want to really consider that. Do you have the time to dedicate to these animals so that you know you're making the right decision and you're not putting yourself in a position where you have to rehome the animals or transplant a tree. Someone had the tree. This person, they didn't actually plant the tree. They just acquired a home, and the tree was there on their property, and they weren't eating the fruit, and so they wanted to get rid of it, and they decided to let people know that if you could come and get it, it was free. So we went, dug it up, and we're doing our best to try to transplant it here to our farm. And I'd like to hear you guys' input because we're newbies. We've only been doing this for about a year, but we've grown tremendously in that time, and we've acquired quite a bit of animals in that time. If I was working a 9 to 5 where I had to wake up early in the morning, you know, and leave my home and go somewhere to work and then come back home, it would be challenging. I believe it would be challenging to actually do something like that. And I'm just offering my experience in this short period of time to someone who is actually considering doing this for themselves. You know, it's going to be a challenge if you're juggling two lifestyles because backyard farming and horticulture, agriculture on a small scale can become demanding. A lot of people that I see, either it's a split relationship between the husband and the wife or the spouse or the whoever is in the home, they split the duties, and most of the time there's someone um, who's dedicated to taking care of the animals, throughout the day. Some people have small homesteads and they have a farmhand, someone there that can, take some of the slack off so that they can actually uh, go out to work. Even if you're wanting to do the farming and do YouTube, that's something something in itself as well because then you have to take time out to make videos. You're gonna have to edit videos, and it's not like we're some big time YouTubers. We're just getting started. Really, we're using this platform to try to get input and try to build a community of people who are doing the same thing that we're doing because it's rewarding but also challenging. And I'm putting this video out to see if you're up for that challenge. You know, when we first started, we weren't even considering what we have now. We actually got our first flock of chickens and ducks. So we had a flock of Barred Rock chickens and a small flock of Pekin ducks. And we did that in response to the recent health scare that's out there. Um, Something that I'm not going to go into, but we did it in response to the health scare and the information that was out there. People weren't able to go to work. They were having issues with some of the farms and getting food out to people because production was down because people were there were issues with people getting sick. And so, in response to that, we ordered some chickens and some ducks so that we could raise some meat just in case things that hit a really bad stride or had gotten really bad. So that's how we acquired our first birds. And from that, it grew into what you see on a lot of the videos. It grew into rescuing um, animals or rehoming. Sometimes it's not uh, poor conditions that we're rescuing these animals from. It's just a matter. It's a rehoming. People again no longer have the time to dedicate to their animals. So in a lot of times that's where we come in. And what we'll do is we'll pick them up, we'll bring them over to our farm, and then through our network of people that we know, we'll try to rehome them to various places where we know that they're going to be taken care of. We live in a pretty rural area, so quite a few people have animals on their properties. Um, so that's what makes it easy for us to rehome the animals. But again, back to the subject of, do you have time? Is homesteading something for you? Is backyard farming something that you have the time and energy to do? Are you willing to put in that sweat equity? But on a lighter note, we're getting into permaculture. We're putting together a row of trees. We're doing a lot of research on, different species of plants, and some things have changed. Previously, we we had acquired an actual shed that we were going to completely dedicate to incubating and brooding, and we had to scrap that because we spend a lot of time inside of the house because we have an office there, and the the shed was going unused. It was just something that was there, and it took more effort to leave the house to go to check on the chicks as opposed to having a room inside the home where we could actually dedicate to um, that part of our farm, because we actually hatch chicks so that we can offer them to people who visit our farm or who want some of the breeds of chickens that we have. So we do a lot of that as well. So, and that takes time. Do you want to get into uh, hatching or incubating eggs and hatching chicks? That requires time and effort as well. And the part of that part of our farm, hand, hands for hands, we're gonna give all of that to Renee. Renee, as far as that is concerned, that part of our farm is something that Renee specializes in. My wife, she's doing all of the incubating and hatching chicks. And that's a lot of time. That's time consuming too, because when you leave the outside, you go inside. You have to turn. You got your turning of your eggs. You got some automatic incubators are different for duck eggs, chicken eggs. And we're not large scale, so we don't have you know really expensive equipment and things like that. And so you want to consider that. And like I said, it's really important that you consider whether or not you have the time and whether or not you're willing to put in the effort to do this consistently. And the reason for making this video is because when we do our rescues and rehoming, we see that the reoccurring theme of people who want to rehome their animals is the fact that, you know, they no longer have the time to put into the animals. And so that's just something I want you guys to consider, you know, when you actually get your homestead started, or when you start getting closer to that point. So with that, you know, I want to thank everybody who has been supporting our channel. Uh, a lot of people who have visited our farm. We really, really, really appreciate you guys, because that helps us out. Quite often, people come to our farm or come to our location, and some of the information that they offer is invaluable. You know, or just sometimes it's just the mere mention of a particular thing that gets my wheels turning, that is invaluable. Like the gentleman, Stephen, from Putnam Permaculture. It's a group on Facebook, Putnam Permaculture. And this guy, just him talking about permaculture got my wheels turning. We had already had quite a few plants and trees out here, and we were already in the process of acquiring some plants and trees. And I believe it was on his second visit in the same day. We had a woman who had come out to the farm, and we were doing a swap. She wanted some chicks. We wanted some plants. We acquired pineapple trees, banana trees. We have moringa now. You know, we have quite a few different things that we're raising on our farm. And when he was out here, he was mentioning that that was something that he was into. Got my wheels turning. And I'm going to use him as a resource, and hopefully he can use me as a resource when, you know, as far as, you know, getting things going on his side, because he's definitely been a help to us. And this is just some cold brew oat milk latte. You gotta have the coffee just to keep yourself going sometimes. We drink quite a bit of coffee. That's our thing. Early morning coffee. I do the early morning routine. So I'm the one that wakes up early in the morning to feed the animals, because, you know, we have goats and our ducks, and, you know, they're out. They're not inside pen or inside coops or chicken runs. They're inside pens, and we like to feed them enough throughout the day that we don't have food lying around throughout the night, because we want to kind of limit the vermin or rats possibly um, infesting the property. So we want to make sure that they eat the food, and then there's no food left over. I'm going to change out the pond because I had to do research on that. You know, rats, they really like water, so you're going to have to limit their access to water, and that drives them off too. And because you got ducks, you're going to have water. So it's kind of a juggling act that I'm going to have to find a nice balance, so that we don't have that kind of an issue. And, you know, you just can't spread poison out, because you have animals. You have chickens. We have chickens. We have ducks. We have geese. We have rabbits. Uh, and I don't feel safe just putting poison out like that. Um, I put it out really far away from the home, hopefully I can, feed the vermin before they actually reach the property. But, every so often I see one or two, and they say when you see one or two, there's much more that you don't see. So, again, um, I didn't mean for this to go so long, and sometimes I'm a rambler, but it's the way that I actually work through a lot of things is by just putting those questions out there. But that's just something that I thought that you you know would be useful information for you, is to consider time. Consider the time that you're going to need to actually um, dedicate to a backyard farm, and the effort. Are you willing to put in the effort? Because you're going to have to actually learn. You're going to have to learn. But the time is the most important thing, because you're going to have to dedicate time to the animals and the plants. And if you don't have the time, and if you're not willing to dedicate the time, you probably shouldn't do it, because you're going to put yourself in a position where you're going to need to rehome your animals. But thanks a lot. If you sat through this, I really appreciate it. And look out for more videos. This is me, you, and the chickens. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video. That really helps us out. And also, remember, in closing, we also provide hatching eggs, and we can ship hatching eggs anywhere in the continental U.S. We're NPIP certified, so we get our regular checks out here to ensure the health of our animals. So when you get your eggs, or if you're coming here to get chicks, you can be sure that they're disease-free. Uh, we do things to try to keep disease away. If we bring in new animals, we quarantine them before um, we actually introduce them to our new flock. So if you see any animals or any of the chickens or ducks on our page, and you'd like to raise that particular breed, uh, just reach out to us, because we do provide the hatching eggs, and we'll send them out to you. Okay? And this is Alan with Me, You, and the Chickens. And thank you so very much for your help in actually visiting our page. See you next time.